Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you are in when you're watching this. This is Primavera Pro monthly sessions about the music industry. And we have the pleasure, the honor, everything to talk to Scott Cohen today. Scott Cohen, as you probably all know, that is a personality in the music industry, an innovator. He was one of the two co-founders of The Orchard. They imagined that music would travel through the internet and that there will be a need for companies to distribute this music to the platforms that would broadcast or would offer this music. And they created The Orchard, which became the first and largest digital distribution company in the world. After growing the business with his vision, he went on to work for a major record and publishing label for Warner Music Group as the CIO, the Chief Innovation Officer there. And now he's taking, again, the challenge of building something new, another vision. And the purpose of this conversation is to learn what is that vision, what is that new venture that Scott Cohen is involved in. And yeah, with no further delay, welcome Scott to the conversation.
Hey, Jordi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I should take you on the road so you can give my intros all the time. I think you describe the beginnings of The Orchard better than I do, for sure. And you leave out all the bad parts of me going broke and homeless. But yeah.
I was going to ask you how it was to sleep in the office before you.
It was fun.
So, yeah, basically, we're going to have half an hour, maybe just a little bit more, to talk about what you're doing now. But I wanted to start basically asking you, after all these years, and looking into perspective, how it comes that you are building something new again, and then we will get into what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was looking in the mirror this morning, brushing my teeth, thinking, how the fuck is it that I'm doing this all over again? Haven't I learned my lesson? But apparently not. It's interesting, as you know, Richard Goddard and I started The Orchard in the 90s and struggled through all those early periods when we had these great ideas, but nothing was ready for them yet. But we kind of fought through all of it until it became so normal. People don't even notice that, of course, you consume music digitally and, Spotify, Apple Music, and, it's on your phone and everybody uploads music. And it seems also natural now. It was challenging. And then I kind of finished that period and went over to work for Max Lusada, the CEO of Warner Music Group, as the chief innovation officer. And I thought that would be an exciting period. I was kind of done. I was even thinking of retirement. But then I went over to Warner and did that for 3.5 years. And I have to say, it was an amazing experience. I love Max. He's an amazing executive, and the people I work with were great, and the work I did was important. But I don't know that I enjoy working inside a large multinational corporation. So I was thinking, okay, I did what I could do there. I'd made whatever impact I could make inside that organization, and then was thinking about, now it's really time for me to retire. And and then an opportunity arose. And for me, it's like, I'm only interested in doing something if it's transformational. I'm not looking for a job. I'm not looking for anything like that. And just the stars aligned, and I thought, oh, fuck it. I'll try it one more time. Go back to being a startup.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think in the last 10 years, there was 3 times when I heard you saying that you were going to retire, and the next step was even bigger to what you were doing before.
Yeah, because remember, inside all this, I'm going to retire and all this, I still also, if you don't remember, became a cyborg and shoved, shoved some metal in my chest and attached the circuit board. That's another
story. Not for Primavera Pro, probably.
No.
So then, let's start with the first question about, so what is this idea, this project that, stopped you from retiring and then excited you enough to say, okay, I'm going to do it again. What is that you're building now?
Yeah, I mean, let me give some context around it first. I think maybe is the best way. I'm looking at the numbers for the music industry, and particularly things like streaming, where most of the revenue comes from. Sorry, and seeing kind of decelerating growth. Be clear, it's still growing. It's not that it's not growing, it's that the growth is starting to slow down. We're not going to see this massive double-digit growth over the next couple of years. At least I don't think we will. So where is the growth going to come from? Is it going to come from, I don't know, VR? I don't think so. I don't think that's anywhere near the place it needs to come from. Is it going to come from, gaming or NFTs or any of these things that people talk about? They're all important, but I don't think it's going to deliver double-digit growth to the music industry. And on top of that, a lot of these would be cannibalistic, which means it would take away from the existing music industry, just replace, the same way that streaming revenue replaced download revenue, and download revenue replaced CD revenue, and CD revenue replaced cassette revenue, and cassette revenue replaced album revenue, and album revenue replaced singles revenue. Like, this is like how the music industry goes. So I was thinking, how do we build something transformational that doesn't cannibalize or substitute any existing revenue stream and actually build something on top? That was a long intro to still not tell you what I'm doing.
It's all right. You just answered my next three questions in one, so it's
fine. I'll tell you what. I'll keep rambling.
You just keep talking, man.
Anytime you interrupt me, cut me off, keep me on track. I don't care. So I'm trying to figure out what's gonna move the needle, what's gonna bring back the real growth, and it struck me that there's this large asset class which is actually controlled by a very few people, and it is the music rights asset class. So obviously it's controlled by the large major labels, the multinational corporations, and a handful of private equity firms. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, they announced that Justin Bieber was selling his catalog for around $200 million. I'm not saying that I have any inside information. I read it in a publication, and you realize that there's this asset class there where people own and trade catalogs. But how many people? Like a dozen people. And I think when an asset class is controlled so tightly, it doesn't actually, it doesn't realize its full potential. What you have is trapped assets. And so it seemed odd to me that anyone that's listening to this or watching this, or any person in the world could go buy shares in Tesla, or Apple, or IBM, or Microsoft, or Amazon, or Sony, Universal, Warner. Anyone could buy a share of stock in any of those massive organizations, but you couldn't buy a share of stock in Justin Bieber's catalog. Couldn't buy one of his songs, which is crazy. It's not that somebody can't, it's that you can't. And why is that? So the business I'm in now it's called Jukebox, is the name. And the notion of Jukebox is to unlock that value and allow people to buy and sell shares of the music they love and the music that makes money.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you were saying. We've seen the rise of the private equity funds getting into the music copyrights asset class, and we've seen Hypnosis, Primary Waves, the major corporations, all of them like fighting for those. But what you're explaining clearly is the next step, the next level, how to make this available. But when you say everyone, you mean everyone? You mean like
I really mean
stock
everyone.
exchange, the stock exchange for music copyrights? This is something that we've seen people trying to do, at least from our perspective. That I realize I've not introduced myself. Who I am? I'm Jordi, by the way.
I knew that.
I'm
already,
CEO of Unison. We are a rights management entity, and that's why I'm here interviewing Scott, because we work on copyrights management. So we've seen that the rise of the private equity firms buying catalogs has generated attention to try to do this stock exchange for everyone to be able to buy shares of copyrights of whatever artist they like. But from our perspective, we've always seen people doing it without taking into account the regulations and everything that this means. So what how are you solving this problem?
Yeah, I mean, first, we can say this isn't even a new idea, which is interesting, because as the chief innovation officer at Warner Music Group, a lot of people confuse me as, innovation for invention. My role was never to invent anything, but it's to take pieces of things and create something new. And so I'm not inventing this notion of fractionalizing, ownership of music. In the year Richard and I started The Orchard in 1997, David Bowie did the Bowie bonds, where he raised $55 million with asset-backed security, and that asset that he used to securitize that fundraise was the royalty streams from 25 albums that he had recorded. So this is not a new idea. It hasn't been done at scale, number one. It hasn't been done for the public, and it hasn't been done inside a regulatory framework. So we believe very strongly that in order to trade in these things, like you trade, in Apple or Amazon stock, that these are securities and these should be regulated. So as we launch in the States, we're focused on working with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, to create a fully regulated marketplace. This is very important because there's also trust involved. From the consumer side, you have to believe what you're buying is real. This isn't somebody that puts up a website and sells an NFT that you're not sure. Again, I'm all for NFTs and the blockchain and all of this, but do you really know what you bought is what you bought and is secure and you can do something with it? So I believe putting a regulatory framework around all of this and filing each song like you would file an IPO for a company, which means here's our full disclosures and here was the due diligence we did on this, and we can show everything and it's fully transparent, and now you can buy a share in that. I think that's critical. So
you would say that those are the three main innovations that you are taking into the market, where you said that to make it available to everyone.
Correct.
And to be compliant with stock exchange type regulations, right?
Right. And then the third is to do it at scale.
At scale. Okay. Yeah.
So David Bowie did it with, a regulatory environment, but it was just him. It was just his catalog, and it wasn't available to the public. So what I think is, what we want to create is an environment where if you want to, go onto the platform and then say, well, do you have this artist or that artist or this one? we'll have so much breadth and depth of catalog that we'll have hundreds of gold and platinum songs and chart toppers and household names. We're starting with the biggest amount we can get. So currently we have a little over $1.7 billion already exclusively committed to the platform. Wow. So if you took everyone in the history of fractionalizing songs and putting them up there, there's players today that are doing that. All of theirs combined is still a fraction of 1% of what we're doing. So if we have 1.7 billion secured now, I expect by the time we launch, we'll have somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $5 billion worth of catalog that will be deployed on the platform. And now you're talking about something at a scale where anything you could imagine we have.
That will be traded. And as you said, it is not something that it's generating income right now at a massive scale for all the music industry. As you said, it's like buying and selling catalog is something that it's benefiting the three major corporations and the 3, 4, 5 major private equity funds investing in that.
A way to think about it as well is, I didn't get my MBA and go to school for this. But had I done that, I would have learned pretty early on about something called TAM, total addressable market.
Yeah.
Like, how big is this opportunity? Like, how big is it? And so I don't know, if we're just doing some, back of the envelope calculations, like, what's the current figure on how much money is made from, selling music rights? Something like, is it 40 billion is today's number? I don't know. Somewhere there that every year, and the number is going up, there's around $40 billion generated from selling copyrights. That means people are streaming it on Spotify or Apple or Amazon. That's what I mean by that. And so when you look at catalogs being sold, they're usually going for around 20 times their annual earnings. Yeah. Some are as high as 30, some a little less at 15.
Well, now this is decreasing a little bit with the interest rates, not that much.
Yeah. But we're just doing kind of how big could this market be? So if it's 40 billion a year times 20, which is the annual earnings, that's $800 billion. We're talking near $1 trillion as a total addressable market. When you do an exercise like that, you don't expect that all of it is going to be deployed like that. But at 800 billion, even at 10%
of that,
it's double the size of the music industry today. And it doesn't cannibalize anything else that exists. So in this world, we create this new market that sits on top of the existing industry. So we don't get in the way of Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, TikTok, all of that stays in place and continues to grow as it grows. And this unlocks value on top. And then if you go so if we're looking at things like going back to our business school hats that I don't think you ever got your MBA either, right?
No, I just haven't.
So neither of us got our MBA, but we're going to pretend like we did. And so we talk about a total addressable market, and it's a two-sided market. So that was the supply side of the market. Is there enough supply? And we've already identified, around $800 billion. And then you go, well, is there enough demand? So just looking at America, yes, I'm American, but I don't live in America. But I know the American market. So just looking at America, there's 80 million Americans that have individual investment accounts. These are like, so they can trade stocks on their own. Yeah. 80 million. So it's Charles Schwab and Fidelity and Robinhood was a big one in the States. I don't think you can do it in the UK or Europe. And what they trade every day is $13.8 billion every day is traded by individuals. We're not talking about institutional professional investors. We're talking about everyday people are spending $13.8 billion a day. Stock markets are not open 365 days a year. So 250 days, my math is pretty shit, but that's somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.5 trillion. So if somebody goes, hey, I should buy stock in Apple, that same person might go, hey, I should buy stock in this song. Yeah. And it's a hit song. We're not talking about an unknown artist, hit songs. So I think the total market is big. I think from the supply side and the demand side, it's there. Putting it in a regulatory framework and doing this at scale, this is why I got back into it.
Excellent. And we have about 15 more minutes, and I wanted to touch on two other parts of the business. One from the artist side. So what is in there for the artists, for the creators, whether they are the hit song composer or the independent artist? What is your new business model going to offer to them, and what possibilities do they have? And then on the second part, it would be as well to know a little bit about the technology behind it. Technology, and as well, I wanted to ask you, who do you have already? But I know you're not going to answer this question yet. But if you can, at least in general, tell us what the artists are going to get.
Yeah, so I can't, you're right. I soon, in the next coming few months, I'll be able to say who some of the artists are. But just trust me, they're household names. So what do the artists get out of it? So you have to assume that they already sold their rights. They don't own them anymore. If it's publishing, they've sold it to a company like Hypnosis, for instance, with the Justin Bieber catalog. Or if it's the masters, it's owned by a record label, right? Yeah. And they're getting royalties. So, and particularly the ones that have sold, then they get nothing anymore. So it's done for them. With that said, we believe they should continue to get paid, even if they don't have even if there's no royalty obligation or any contractual obligation. We think that they should continue to get paid. So if people are trading in their music, how can we ensure that they still get a little something? I mean, if you think about like the art world, imagine somebody's a starving artist and makes a painting and sells it for 100 euros, and they're thrilled. But then imagine how they feel if 10 years later they see that same painting at an auction for 100,000 or 1,000,000 euros. It's like, how much did they get? Nothing. They already sold it. It's done. It's gone. We've thought about that a lot and feel that it's kind of core to our business, that both the songwriters and the recording artists should be continually rewarded, even if they no longer have the rights to that, and we're not obligated. So we're creating a large pool of money, not a small pool, a very large pool of money from all the activity that happens around selling music. There's a primary market, which is the kind of IPO. And then there's a secondary market where there's the daily trading and all the things that happen with that. From the money that we generate from this, our intention is to create a large pool of money that we divide up with all the songwriters and all of the recording artists.
Wow, that sounds really interesting for artists, obviously, and it also sounds a bit like what we're hearing from NFTs, right? And some of the NFT approach where they say, you're going to create this piece of art, but then every time that it's resold, you're going to get a kicker, whatever right. percentage that is of the value of the secondary market.
So that's a nice thought, and I totally agree. However, under securities law in America, that wouldn't be legal, believe it or not, to share out those kinds of certain types of commissions. So first and foremost, we're following securities law. It reminds me a lot of, the early days of the web, when people would put up websites where people could share music, and they take entire catalogs of music of your favorite artists and share them. and ultimately people said, you might call it sharing, but it's actually copyright infringement and you don't have the rights to do that. And I kind of look at how people are doing this with NFTs, and it's like, you might not think it's a security. And again, I'm not saying anyone has bad intentions, but there are laws in place, securities laws. And you might not think it's a security, and you go, no, it's not a security, it's an NFT. We're just sharing the money from this NFT sale. We're taking a different approach and going, you know what, we're going to follow exactly what the SEC says, the Securities and Exchange Commission in America, and then as we work through Europe, we're going to follow the rules of every country on what is a security and what are the rules around it. With that said, I love the notion of an NFT and baked into that this ability to pay an artist. We just need to ensure that how we do it is legal, because it's not even just about the company doing something illegal. You don't want the company to do something illegal. You don't want the artist to get caught up in something that's illegal. You don't want the customer to be buying something that's ultimately illegal. There's just nothing good that comes of that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's like, as I said at the beginning, regulation. It's the main first red flag that the legal department at Unison always raises when we talk about NFTs and all that. But continuing on the sort of ideas that the NFTs have put on the table in the last 3 to 5 years, there's like the utilities that they say attached to NFTs, which it's basically a fun engagement tool. Yeah. It's a new marketing tool to create to try to create a stronger relationship between the artist or the copyright owner of this artist and the fan base. Is this something that that your model can integrate in as well? I mean, as a secondary sort of like, it's not a stock exchange, but
so the answer is kind of. Message. Listen, we've known each other a long time, and you can probably think back to how long I've also been talking about blockchain technology,
yes,
and how important it is, and probably before most people in the music industry were ever talking about it, there was a small group of us, like Cliff Fluid and Benji Rogers, and like a few of us, not dozens of us, certainly not hundreds, thousands or whatever, like a few of us were talking about blockchain. And I love blockchain technology. And with that said, if any customer has to know what a crypto wallet is, an NFT, an FT, a coin, a token, what's the difference between a coin and a token? Like, if that is still the world we live in, then we got a problem. Again, being in the early days of the web, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that if you wanted to go to a website, you had to type http://www, the exact name of the website, and is it .com, .net, .org? I don't know. And if you got any element wrong, nothing. Start again. http. Like the technology was so out in front and in your face that it was difficult to work with, and not everyone could do it. Now I'm on my phone, and if I want something, I just push a button and shit magically happens. A car shows up, the food I ordered arrives, a song plays. Like, I have no idea the code base of Spotify app. Why should I know that? Trust me, I will use blockchain elements in everything we're doing. but nobody will ever know because it's nobody's business to know. Why should you know? It's irrelevant. I think what blockchain can offer with smart contracts that execute commands at scale is amazing for our business. Amazing. Some of the NFT stuff that you can create collectibles, amazing. But no customer is going to have to know anything about blockchain or NFTs. That would be, well, that if you do, then you know the technology is not mature.
Yeah. Yeah, that made me think about one of the most successful NFTs companies that I've seen now here in Barcelona, Gudzu. They actually, one of their missions is to detechnify the NFT part of the business and make it available and understandable to everyone. So that you can buy an NFT without needing a digital wallet, without having to know what it's a crypto and all these type of things.
Well,
so
that's the thing.
It resonates,
what you can do is get a crypto wallet without knowing that you got a crypto wallet.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, why do we have to now introduce an entire new language?
I lost the audio. Now back.
Okay. Yeah. Why do we have to introduce an entirely new language? How about I want to set up an account as a customer, and I just put in an account. And they go, oh, we'll need some details, and if you're trading, you know, whatever, then you have to attach your bank account and whatever and prove it's you. Fine. If that then builds out a crypto wallet on the back end, excellent. But we don't have to introduce some new concept to the consumer. And if you want to say, oh, you get, for doing all these things, you get all these rewards and points, like that's something people understand. Why do we have to talk about tokens and tokenization and tokenomics? Like, why does anyone need to know this other than the people developing the platform?
I wanted to finish just, taking advantage of your trajectory and what you're doing now, what you've done, and to, tell us where you see, you've clearly told us where you see certain things going, what you're doing now on the music industry, but how you see the music industry as a whole for the next 2-3 years, post-COVID, what would be your 5 cents, not 30 minutes, but just, what is getting you more excited besides what you're doing now?
Yeah, it's tough because a lot of the things I say, people don't like hearing. So, so I feel like I can end this on a negative note, but it's true. But it's true that people don't like change, but things have changed since COVID, and people don't want to accept it necessarily. And I would say things have changed before COVID, and it was only, exacerbated or, by COVID over the last 3 years, like the live music industry. This I've been saying for a long time, like much like radio, it's the end of its life. It's huge, it's massive, but it's not what we used to think it was. It used to be some people got together, wrote some songs, went out on tour, built a following, first playing little clubs, and then they got signed and put out a record and kept playing to larger and larger audiences and built up something. And that sounds wonderful, but that's not how the music industry works, and it hasn't worked this way in a long time. So I think we're going to see a continual change in live, particularly at the smaller end of the market. Like what's more usual or more typical to happen is somebody's in their bedroom, makes some beats, raps over it, uploads some music to TikTok, that one of the songs catches fire, explodes, they get signed to a major record deal, and the first time they play in front of an audience is in front of 10,000 people. And nobody is building from the bottom up, playing live. This myth has been going on for so long, but I don't know anyone outside of people in the music industry that goes to a show, that pays money for a ticket to a show, if they don't already know the artist and are a fan. Nobody goes to a venue, doesn't know the artist, pays their money and go, I hope somebody entertains me tonight. Like that never happens. You don't build a following live. It's the payoff after you have an audience. And so I think what we're seeing already in the live industry is, they're still making money at the top, as in the mega artists and the festivals, but everything below that is going to be a long, slow decline to almost nothingness.
And with these enthusiastic words about the future,
you got to give me 30 seconds more, because that was a terrible way to end. No, what I'm saying is the music industry is going to grow in new ways, new ways that we can reach audiences. There was never a time in the past that somebody could live in a small town and then have the opportunity to put out a piece of music and explode around the world. This is what's exciting. That's happening. I think people should start to look at what's happening in Web3 and the metaverse. So there's early steps of this, if you can look at a company like Roblox and say, all right, well, who's going to be the first artist that breaks out of there?
Yeah.
Like there's going to be a whole new world out there that's exciting. It's just not like the old world.
Yeah.
Now, is that a positive thing? Because I got to jump off this call.
Yeah, no, that's positive. And you made me remember Decentraland. The other day I met a booker of festivals in Decentraland.
Right.
And it was like, wow, yeah, here we go. Anyway, Scott, I know you're in a rush. Thank you so much for your time. It was inspiring as usual. And I guess we're gonna see a lot of you in the next year or so in events and other chats. But thank you so much. Thank you, Primavera Pro.
Thank you.
And see you soon, hopefully.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao. Thank you very much.